You know what they say about change. The only thing which doesn't change is that things change. Like spare change, which can be changed into other types of spare change, or alternatively into no change through the exchange of change for products which you can change so long as you hold on to the receipt. The gaming industry has changed. The gaming industry has changed appreciably over the last decade. The tens, not the tames, the tens, the 20 decade we just got out of, was an era of experimentation in shitty business practices, many of which were abetted by the ever-increasing prevalence of the internet in our daily lives. Before we knew it, the long-standing restrictions on how games could be monetized were eroded. But like the first fish salamander thing to flop onto dry land, the gaming industry could only flop so far before it had to flop back to familiar waters. And in keeping with the habits of the first fish salamander thing, the gaming industry grew more audacious, flopping ever further from the familiar waters from whence it came. Expansion packs gave way to DLC, which gave way to digital pre-order bonuses, which gave way to day one patches, which gave way to online passes, which gave way to season passes. With every new post-launch monetization strategy implemented came a shift in the consensus on what was and wasn't acceptable. Those concessions invariably led us here, to a new paradigm in which the live service game is king. I often get the impression we don't all agree that this is true, and to be clear, it's not that I'm happy about it. I'm not happy that rabbits eat their own poo, but unfortunately, reality doesn't contort to my whims, and I doubt it does to yours either. The eagle-eyed the dog-eared among you may have noticed the point I just made was essentially that there are people who disagree with me on something. An astute observation, I'm sure you would agree or disagree, as humans and probably dolphins can do. I am going somewhere with this. It seems to me that our collective understanding of this new live service paradigm is highly dissonant. So much so that it's hampering our collective ability to effectively navigate the landscape in which we find ourselves. Broad resistance towards the idea of microtransactions of any kind being in any game has all but evaporated given their ubiquity. Yet at the same time, much of the online discourse surrounding live service multiplayer games would have you believe that these titles are deeply unpopular. So unpopular, in fact, that it would be foolish of any major publisher to invest in the development of such titles rather than single-player games devoid of post-launch revenue streams. Given the tens of billions of dollars these games generate for their respective publishers every year, I would sooner take business advice from a flat tire than anybody who unironically thinks that live service games are a bad investment. There is a reason why the major publishers are largely indifferent to those of us who malign microtransactions. Bad press within a niche corner of the video game industry doesn't count for much in the face of unprecedented profits. On the balance sheets of these companies, live service revenue now exceeds point of sale revenue. This is just the stark reality of the situation. The good old days when a single transaction stood between you and your game, they are done. Live service games are here to stay. And that is very much our fault. The lucrativeness of microtransactions by comparison to retail price games says a lot about how much we suck, because this is a bottom-up problem. Unless I'm deeply mistaken and it's yellow-throated bush sparrows who are dumping billions of dollars into loot boxes, live service games which generate revenue through loot boxes and battle passes which expire succeed because of our insecurity. Like credit cards, the model relies on our failings, our fear of being left out, our inability to be content with what we have, our need to be special, but more importantly, our desire to show off just how special we are. To advocate for more ethical business practices while denying that this model succeeds because of us is like fighting a polar bear while under the earnest belief that it's a sea cucumber. You're failing to acknowledge a key component of the issue. Right now, you might be thinking, the hell is the point of this video? All you've said so far is that I suck and everything sucks. And to that I say, if everything sucks, then of course you suck. That's redundant. Speak better, you stupid imaginary prick. Besides, that's not even what I think. Yeah, Now who's got platypus egg on his face? Though the live service game is now dominant in the AAA space, there are still plenty of games which don't feature battle passes, loot boxes, or microtransactions of any kind. Indie developers have consistently bestowed upon us many fantastic games free of microtransactions, and some of these teams have gone above and beyond in conducting themselves ethically. What better way to incentivize other companies to do the same thing than to financially reward those who do the right thing? Furthermore, not all live service games are created equal. Some games have battle passes which don't expire and thereby don't exploit our fear of missing out. Not all free-to-play games feature exorbitantly priced cosmetic items, nor do they all feature loot boxes. If the live service model is here to stay, and I do think it is, then it's probably a good idea to buy into those ecosystems and starve out the others. Coupled with strong consumer advocacy, this is the best way that we can bring about positive change. But I do get worried that even these efforts won't be enough to keep us from sliding down that slippery slope. Looking back on victories like Battlefront 2 from where we are now, I can't help but think that we've only delayed game-changing microtransactions from becoming the new norm rather than outright curtailing them. I feel this way because we now broadly consider cosmetic microtransactions in retail-priced games to be fine when we used to consider them unacceptable 10 years ago. It's like I said before, the consensus on what is and isn't acceptable has changed. The landscape that we remember, where we would go to the store, buy our game, and never expect to pay a cent more than the asking price printed on the box, is by now nothing more than a nostalgic memory. I'm sure we'll be able to buy nostalgia pills over the counter soon enough. But even having said that, always remember that your wallet is your greatest weapon. Unless you happen to own an F-15.